here today on the second of a series of 4 workshops with Dubspot LA and Disney Interactive, and we're talking about innovations in multi-track recording and production. And we're also going to be here with Alex Ranney, who is a musician and a technologist and a historian, and he's going to explain to us a little bit about Walt Disney's passion, I think that's an understatement, almost his obsession with this incredible project, and how his vision engendered and created all this new technology that now has developed into a lot of the technology that we use at Dubspot. Alex, take it away.
Thank you very much. I should say my background split between music and art. I used to work at Disney Feature Animation back in the days of Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast. I helped with the 1990 restoration of Fantasia when the original soundtrack, the Stokowski soundtrack, was put back with the film. It's kind of amazing. The Walt Disney Studio has always been involved with technology from 1928's black and white monaural world of Steamboat Willie to just over 10 years later, 1940s Fantasia, which is in Technicolor and multi-channel surround sound. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about what came before Fantasia and what's happening still today, the reverberations that extend from that film. So here's Walt and Roy in 1923. They come out to California. This is actually before there's sound on film. So they're ahead of the game. They're making Alice comedies. Even though there was no sound on the film, Walt was always interested in the music, and he would go and he would actually tip the organist or the pianist at whatever theater so that they could catch the hits and make sure that the music accompanied what was happening in the film. One of the theaters Walt went to was Carthay Circle, which is no longer here, but this was here in Los Angeles, and Snow White and Seven Dwarfs would premiere there, as well as Fantasia. This is a guy who was the music director at Carthay Circle, Carly Eleanor, and Walt would confer with him or whoever else was there saying, hey, play this tune, that one. So, of course, all the silent movies changed when Jazz Singer comes out. It's a huge hit, not the first sound film, but a huge, huge hit. So Walt decides to make a sound film, and he decides to do a parody of Buster Keaton's Steamboat Bill Jr. The only problem was nobody had thought about how are you going to synchronize animation with music. So there's one guy on Disney's staff, Wilfred Jackson, and he played piano. So he figured out if film runs through the camera at 90 feet per minute, that means it's 24 frames per second or 16 frames a foot. And he actually figured out if each one of those bars is 16 frames of film, and if you sit with a metronome, that's 90 beats per minute, you can figure out how to plan out your animation for the whole thing. So that's how they did it. Very mechanical, but they made it work. Steamboat Willie, a huge hit, and it really kicks off Walt's career. Actually, he'd made 100 short films up to that point, but now he's really on a roll. Walt decides that he's going to do a special cartoon with Mickey, and they're going to base it on The Sorcerer's Apprentice. There's a tone poem by Paul Dukas based on a tone poem by Goethe. So they started doing storyboards that were in color instead of black and white. They wanted to be a really, really spectacular production. Now, they wanted somebody really special to record the music, but they didn't know who. And by chance, Walt runs into Leopold Stokowski there on the left. Stokowski had conducted the Philadelphia Orchestra from the late teens up until 1938. He's world famous. He's a star in the classical world and certainly crossover almost as much as Walt. Stokowski had been working with Bell Labs starting in 1930. From 1930 to 1940, Stokowski works with Bell Labs in trying to improve sound reproduction, mainly for recordings, but they also try some really interesting and curious stuff. The Philadelphia Orchestra plays at the Music Academy in Philadelphia, and then they send a signal, 3 signals, left, center, right, over telephone wires to Washington, D.C., to Constitution Hall. So there's an audience filling Constitution Hall, and they're listening to the Philadelphia Orchestra playing in Philadelphia. This is 1933. Here's the basement of the Music Academy, and these are the technicians that are controlling the information that's being sent from Philadelphia to D.C. And here's one of the programs of the concerts. So it's a concert demonstrating a new auditory perspective method of transmitting music under electrical control, giving new orchestral possibilities. The thing that Stokowski really liked about this is he was actually in Washington, D.C., so they had the assistant conductor in Philadelphia. Stokowski was in Washington, D.C., and he had his hands on the dials, so he could crank up the orchestra and blast the eardrums of the audience in D.C. When it came time for Stokowski to do the music for 100 Men and a Girl, he said, hey, why don't I try some of the new technology I've been working on with Bell Labs and also with RCA out here in Hollywood. And so what they did is they recorded, for the first time, they recorded the orchestra onto multiple interlocked pieces of film, at least 6, possibly 7. It was what RCA called their multiple channel recording. So that's the first time it gets done for a movie. Now, it's still going to be a mono movie. There's no stereo involved here. But what this does is it allows them to play with the balances of the orchestra so that once the film is cut together, you can raise and lower different instruments to match what's on screen. So this is the first time in film that people are really playing with raising, lowering levels because they have isolated stems of each section of the orchestra. And of course, it's a dream come true for a conductor because now the musicians go away and you can mix it however you want. Here we are at the Broadway Theater in New York, which is where the premiere is going to take place. They're getting Fantasia set up. This is the front of the theater. And back in the back, there's all the Fantasound equipment that's been shipped to New York to get set up. Here's a basic outline of how it worked. You've got 3 main speakers in the front. You've got a whole bunch of surround speakers. The surround speakers were, for the most part, turned on manually, except that Disney noticed that the guys would forget to turn it on. So they ended up putting a notch in the film, and it would trigger a switch that could turn the back speakers on and off. There were only 2 theaters that installed the full Fantasound, and that was the Broadway in New York and the Carthay Circle out here in California. Fantasia, this is kind of interesting information. So the second from the right is the effective volume of Fantasia. You got 75 dBs, and compare it with 35 dB of range of normal films of the time. I mean, it literally blew people out of their seats. Some people didn't like it was so loud, but it was extraordinary.
Welcome back after the break. We're here also with Chris Nichols from Disney Interactive. He's going to give us an exclusive sneak preview into the new video game that has been inspired by Fantasia and Fantasound 75 years later.
And we can keep it short because I'd rather just show you the game and let it speak for itself, because that's kind of what we've been trying to do for a very, very long time. And the thing that we learned over 4 years is that whatever Walt did is phenomenally difficult. It's a very easy thing to say. It's a very easy thing to stand on the shoulders of giants. It's a tremendously difficult thing to really create something that changes how people think about music. And for us, it wasn't just about musicians and producers. It was about trying to change people's relationship to music in a really broad way, almost let anyone kind of reach out and touch and experience what it's like to mold music and express it as a creative art.
Watching the video game and knowing the wealth of knowledge that you know just about Fantasound, Fantasia, what stood out in the game to you that made you think that Walt would jump up and throw his cigarette in the air?
The idea of the immediacy with a single person, but also, we didn't see it tonight, but you can do the multiplayer game, but not only that you can explore and create on your own, but then you can share it with so many people because you create something which you can immediately put out there.
I mean, I thought watching the game, really one of the things that the game player becomes is this conductor. You could see the power of being the conductor and being in the music flowing from your gestures and your hands. And now that they've sort of translated that into the game, I think Walt would have played this game.
I think the whole idea that you remove barriers between music and people's experience with it, whether it's pop music, whether it's classical music, whatever. So many people say, "Oh, I'm not talented enough," or I can never do that. Two is this is like singing in the shower. Just like you say, you can do it on your own and give it a try and evolve and develop on your own. Everything's so slick today and presented so professionally that a lot of people are just daunted about getting their foot putting their toe in the water, just trying it out, see how it goes. And if this could encourage anybody to do that, then that's terrific. Whether or not they want to pursue a career in music or not, it's just to be able to play with music is fantastic.
Thank you, Alex, for everything today. I learned a lot. So
thanks for having me out to Dubspot, and best of luck with all the upcoming adventures and opening the academy out here.
Well, I'm sure we will get you in there to share some knowledge with their students. For
Excellent,
sure.
excellent. I'll bring the harp next time.
Bring the harp.
There you go.
Okay, good. Awesome. Well, thank you, man.
Thank you.
Welcome to Dubspot. We believe in providing you hands-on experience right away. Whether you're completely new to music and want to turn the sounds in your head into a musical reality, or you're an experienced artist looking to refine your skills and add new tools to your arsenal, we're ready to meet you at your level. For students of all ages, all levels, and all styles of music, Dubspot is here to help you achieve your goals. With course offerings both online wherever you are and at our school in the heart of New York City, we are ready to guide you through the next phase of your musical transformation. Whether you want to produce music, DJ, or do both, you've come to the right place. Come explore Dubspot for yourself. Become a part of our community and make music.